What's my name? Redemption. Redemption is the flavor of the night. Andre Onana, with the final action of the game, gives Man United a huge 3 points. We'll be delving into that in more detail. Arsenal with an absolutely massive win away from home against Sevilla. 28 wins from their last 31 home European ties for Sevilla. A difficult place to go, and Arsenal got themselves through, demonstrated their class. Of course, the Arteta routers will focus, as ever, on it weren't the most convincing performance, but it was a massive game. Your players stepped up, and they gave you 3 points. I've said it all year, though. The fact that Arsenal and Man United are both on the same night is horrendous. Genuinely horrendous. Both those games going on at the same time, and it's hard to focus on the two of them. I'm going to start with Man United, though, as I am a Man United fan, and it's a bittersweet game. Of course, there's the tributes to Sir Bobby, a legend, and they were half pain and half joyous to watch. The atmosphere was strange, though. There was a pressure on this team, and in the first half, the manager's approach was not working. In any capacity whatsoever, it wasn't working. We were slow, unimaginative. There was such a low quality performance from Manchester United. It was unbelievable. It was so poor. The second half, those things started to change for Man United. Eriksen came in, helped control the ball in the middle. And I'm going to say this now at the top of the show. Bruno Fernandes was moved back to playing off the striker. And in my opinion, in that second half, we saw Bruno of old. Yes, he didn't get an assist. Yes, he didn't get a goal, but he was so dangerous. That is where that man has got to play. We had some mistakes. Højlund heavy touch, Rashford heavy touch, Garnacho heavy touch. Should have scored 2 or 3 goals. Maguire steps up. Third game on the bounce where he's been very, very strong with a massive goal for Manchester United tonight because it keeps us in the Champions League. It gives us hope of improvements. It gives us hope of at least staying in this competition. Who knows when you're going to improve? Who knows what the future holds? You still want to be in it. I'd rather be in it than go out. And it was absolutely massive. But then you saw that pressure towards the end. We started getting caught out of position. We were not as compact, and we were being opened up far too easily. And I felt something was going to happen towards the end. I knew when they got that corner, there was trouble ahead. And then the penalty was conceded. And yes, it was a penalty. Sorry, it wasn't a penalty in my opinion. I've only seen 2 replays, no contact made with the player whatsoever. Yes, his boot was high, but in the box, there's always a higher threshold. Always. No contact made. I thought it was a ridiculous decision to give the penalty. And then he's had a torrid start to his time as a Manchester United player. He absolutely has, Onana. But 2 massive saves tonight. One just at the beginning of the second half from a counter-attack, and then the last kick of the game. Man United's European campaign was over if that went in. And it's a big moment for him. It's a moment that my hope as a Man United fan is that it galvanizes him and we get the very best Onana that he has shown the world in the past that he can give. But look, there are still holes in this Man United team. There are still big problems in this Manchester United team. Happy with the win, happy with how we did things. But there's still got to be some improvements. One of those things is Rashford's got to start on the bench. It is frustrating me that man is still continuing to start these games. It truly is. The next bit is you put Bruno Fernandes back into his best position. As soon as he was back off that striker today, and I don't feel like we've seen Bruno there for 2 years. Genuinely. Out on the left, sitting deeper. He's okay at those jobs, but that's it. He's okay. Playing off the striker, he's one of the best in the world. Always felt it, will always believe it. I don't care how much he loses the ball in that position. It doesn't really damage us too much. Put him back off the striker. It will also, by the way, help Rasmus Højlund. It will give us that extra bit of creativity that we need. Equally, we've got to get that central midfield balance right. The next game is Man City. And if we start the game against them on Saturday, how we did tonight against Copenhagen, they will slice us and dice us, and we will be in big, big trouble. Happy with the win. Happy with the second half performance. Still worried about the lack of clinical edge from our players up front. We're still not scoring enough goals from an attacking point of view. Barely any goals, barely any assists from our whole front line for the entire season now. Very proud of Onana tonight. Well done again to Harry Maguire. You did yourself very proud indeed. Now, Terry, would I start Maguire in the Manchester derby on Sunday? Yes, because I need to not be a hypocrite. And I always state that the manager should, certain positions, certain times, you pick on meritocracy. And he deserves to be picked, Harry Maguire. He just does. And I think he will start that game against Manchester City. Now, and I want to Arsenal before I bring the panel out tonight. So weird. Like, Arsenal fans have become a little weird this year. And I understand they want to win. I understand they're under pressure. But I do feel Arsenal fans have become a little bit strange this season. I was seeing Arsenal fans tweeting during the first half things along the lines of, I can't believe how bad we've looked. We should be going there and smashing this team. I'm like, hang on, you just don't watch European football. And I don't mean La Liga. I mean the Europa League, the Champions League. Sevilla at home in the past decade, I think they've only lost like 3 games in Europe at home. They've won 28 of their last 31. Legit. Going to their stadium on a European night is hard. This weird notion that you're only a good team if you win comfortably home and away is a nonsense. Look at City last season in a lot of their away Champions League games. They're the best team in the world, and they struggled away from home on a few occasions. That isn't because they're poor, it's because it's hard. Going away from home in Europe, winning games, especially against good teams, and Sevilla are an elite European team of late. Yes, more so in the Europa League, but these same Arsenal fans moaning are the same ones that say you're a rubbish European team. So do you do the math? To go away and beat Sevilla is huge. Top of your group. I thought Gabriel Jesus had an excellent performance. The goal was sublime. The touch and the turn on the pass for the assist for Martinelli was absolutely fantastic. And of course, there are moments where Sevilla opened them up. Of course, there was moments where Sevilla looked dangerous. They do that to every team they play in Europe at home. This idea and notion that it was going to be easy for Arsenal to go there and shut them out is delusional. Delusional. I don't think anybody... Did you see how well they did in the Super Cup against Man City a few weeks ago? Now, that wasn't even at their home stadium. And if they had better finishing that night, they might have beaten City. They are a very good team in European competition. There's no doubt about it. So it's a huge win for Arsenal tonight, going away to a very difficult place, picking up those 3 points. And it was a performance. You know, players like your Martinellis, like your Gabriel Jesus is criticized for not scoring enough goals so far this season. That is a massive feather in the cap. It really is, in my humble opinion. And I think there'll be a lot of growth mentally for Arsenal from this, from a European point of view. They get to blow the cobwebs away after what was a poor weekend in terms of performance-wise for them away at Chelsea. But again, there is a weird delusion that seems to have cast itself over football that going away to Chelsea and going away to Sevilla are somehow easy games. They're not. And I don't really feel like there's one season where going away to Chelsea was easy. That was last year. Going away to Sevilla hasn't been easy for over a decade. So anybody that thought it was going to be a simple game, you're just either lying or you're deluding yourself. It was fantastic from Arsenal tonight from a results point of view. Yes, there'll be holes in the performance. Yes, there'll be, I didn't like this moment, didn't like this little bit. But we are overanalyzing as fans, genuinely. It becomes overanalyzing in the end. People are seeking this perfection that I just don't think exists. I don't know if it ever existed. Go back and watch like a season review from when you were at your tip-top best. I guarantee you'll find loads of games where it's like, how the hell did we win that? It's kind of normal. But I don't really think it was even that tonight for Arsenal. I thought you were very accomplished. You had more of the ball. I do feel like your chances in the main were better. It got a little dicey towards the end, but of course it was going to. They were throwing the kitchen sink at you, and Arsenal had the perseverance and peace of mind to get through it. So listen, 2 big results for Man United and Arsenal tonight, 4 different reasons, but a big rebound from their last European outings, which were hugely disappointing. Big wins in the grand scheme of things for both clubs, and they can now relax for the rest of the week in build up to more Premier League action. Finally, justice served for that penalty. For that no penalty kick. In fairness, that is what I shouted was justice. To be fair, I don't think it was a penalty. I was ready to cry foul, to be honest with you. And cry foul as in we were robbed again, Man United. I did feel that it was very, very harsh. We still haven't been shown whether Rashford was really offside. And I don't trust VAR, both internationally and domestically. We didn't get shown whether Rashford was offside when he went through for a penalty earlier on in the game. They didn't really show us any good replay angles. They showed us one, no close-ups, no nothing. Should have been reviewed. But yes, very happy for Onana to save it. Terry, that was too close, but might get ready for Europa. Yeah, it was close. We need to improve massively. We've got to go away to Copenhagen, which is going to be hard. I think they might open up a little bit more in that game, which could help us a little bit. But we have to go and win that match. And then we do need a result, by the way. We have to get something positive away at Galatasaray, which is proper hard, mate. The amount of chances we wasted is worrying me. Look, there's been lots of things every game for Man United fans to be annoyed about. But the amount of chances or opportunities, because ironically, Rashford, Højlund, and Garnacho's heavy touches, statistically, they won't show up anywhere as a chance. But for me, they were better chances than some of the shots that just went wide and stuff, legitimately. So, yeah, it's still a worry for me. We have lost all confidence when it comes to our attack. We really have. McTominay, Maguire, Casemiro are sort of our leading lights attacking-wise. It's crazy. It feels like Rice is captain already for me. Well, I told Gooners that would happen, and that isn't a dig at Odegaard. It's just that he's a better captain, and it's a natural thing. But remember, Arsenal at their best, Man United at their best, Chelsea at their best. Sometimes you had like 3 or 4 international captains who were captains of their country all at one club. But it's really not a big deal. Important 3 points. Second half was good. Still frustrated we missed so many chances in front of goal. It's concentration. Congrats to Onana and Harry for coming up clutch. Thank you, Joshua Jack. You're absolutely right there. Watching Man United doesn't always guarantee a win. One thing it does guarantee, however, is crippling depression. Night Nurse FC. Terry had the United were robbed vid prepared. Of course I did, bruv. That weren't a penalty. Stand by it. Tomiyasu's stunning display has to start over Zinni. Zinchenko's been poor this season, and listen, I've always been impressed with Tomiyasu. I think he's such an underrated footballer and defender. Today proves how Lee Gunner watches football. He tweets, "We got away with the first half. Sevilla didn't have a shot on target, and we were 1-0 up." Look, as we pointed out with Lee Gunner earlier, he actually doesn't think that Ederson and Alisson are better distributors of the ball than David De Gea. He just thinks that they're in better teams. And if David De Gea was playing for City and was passing the ball to better quality footballers, they would control it more, win the ball more, meaning his pass percentage would go up. I love Lee, but hearing that today was shocking to me. Plus, his team stepped up tonight in what was a big game, and he should be congratulating them. But probably they didn't do it in a way in which he liked. We'll see what he says on his match reaction. Arsenal fans need to relax. We conceded virtually nothing other than bad passes out from the back. Not just today, but Chelsea, City, etc. Tommy, Rice, Martinelli, Jesus, superb today. Yeah, I do think all those players are very, very good today. I suppose one worry for Arsenal fans will be what looks like a potential knock for Gabriel Jesus. Thomas Partey, I believe, ruled out today with an injury, which won't be good news for Arsenal fans with him only just returning. But maybe that's why the club were looking at moving him on. Maybe they know more internally about his health conditions and his body deteriorating. And remember, there's a lot of science that goes into football now. And it's not a case of he's not a good enough footballer, but availability is the best ability. Look at the Man United fans that wanted to spend nearly £1 million a week on Neymar this season. As amazing as he is, that knee would have gone because his body's breaking down. So I'm not surprised to see him with injuries like that at this stage of his career when his body's made of biscuits now. You need to be mindful. Injuries are huge. Barely beating Copenhagen at home. Yeah, that's why I've criticised it and said there's still holes in the team. Happy with the win because I'm a Man United fan. But I've criticised it. So I'll be honest with you, Keith, I don't quite know what you're getting at. Whether you think I should be criticising them more, I already have done. And I want to see a lot more. I still want to see certain players dropped. I'll congratulate certain elements. The second half was a much better display and is more how we need to be doing things. But that's because we brought a baller on in the middle and we put Bruno Fernandes back to his best position, in my opinion, for the first time in a while. I'd love to see his heat map for that second half. So much more central. And when he did drift out to the right, it was when there was people underlapping or inverting or whatever bloody word you want to use in 2023. And he was putting crosses into the box. in that 45 minutes he played off the striker, he created more chances in that 45 minutes than he has done in the last 180 minutes combined. There's something in that for me. He looked alive again, and we need more of that. Wouldn't be funny seeing Larson score. Listen, Larson's son, listen, he's like a cult hero for me. He played for us for like a month on loan. Loved him. Wish he stayed longer. What a player he was. But yeah, that's it there. 2-minute talk on Man United, but 20 minutes on Arsenal. Terry is hilarious. Now, I did the first 4 minutes on Man United, then I did the next 4 minutes on Arsenal because I'm fair. And then it's based on the super chat. So Maradona moron, if an Arsenal fan super chats in, I'm not going to suddenly talk about Man United out of arrogance. I'm going to respect that super chat and that donation from that brilliant person to my channel, my friend. Nice try, my friend. Like, again, you're here with the hate. I know you love me, bro. I know you do. I know you want a big hug from me. Man probably wants to watch me shower as well. Anyway, shout out Garnacho. You'll wire Terry little details. Yeah, I don't understand that. Yeah, look, he looked good other than that every touch, but needs to be more clinical like the rest of the team. Arsenal fans should look into why a party couldn't make it. Didn't think you should criticize more, but I hate United. Okay. Well, yeah. Then it's banter then. And we were poor in large parts tonight, and I'm sure the United fans coming on will talk about that. We know that we where and what we need to do to improve. You guys are telling me to pause. Chat to your boy Maradona. It's not my, it's not my fault he presses his face up against my frosted windows in my bathroom. Blame him. It's not my bloody fault. Listen, panel time now, my people. We've got KJ, we've got man like Staffy, we've got Cameron, English Cameron on the show, not Canadian Cameron. We've got Jason, we've got Dizzy, we've got Sard, we've got man like I'm going to get it wrong again because I can just see the J. I'm going to say Jay. We've got Jay coming on. He's on the show because my head's gone blank. He just wrote Jay in the private chat as well. That don't help me. My head's gone. I'm bringing the panel out now. I'm bringing the panel out to have their say on the show. How are we all? We all good? We all well?
Yeah, man.
Well,
There we go.
Yep.
Flipping team, bro.
Well,
Stress.
No.
After race.
Copy.
Whoa.
You gotta scream over it, bro. You gotta scream over it.
Yeah.
Listen with the piece.
KJ, it was a weird night for Man United tonight, but the 3 points were picked up. Onana the hero at the end, along with Maguire, but a much better better performances are needed by this team, aren't they?
Flipping out. See, look what they've done to me. I'm knocking my microphone and everything. Flipping out. I love them and I hate them so much at the same time. It's weird, man. Like, I want to strangle them and then hug them, strangle them and hug them. Terry, you could just replay what I said in the last match reaction against Sheffield United about double pivot, having a player like Eriksen next to a destroyer, controlling games more, sitting a little bit deeper in the midfield, and letting our players who play in the actual positions play. Like Bruno Fernandes, put him back in this cam role instead of this hybrid deep lying playmaker thing he's been trying to do. He looks better. He looked better for the second half. We are all over the place. I've not seen us play cleanly in all season, except against Crystal Palace in the cup with the second team.
Yep.
Ten Hag needs to honestly just stop what he's doing. Stop what you're flipping doing. I'm tired. Just keep it simple. When he keeps it simple, we play better. That's all he needs to do. Keep it simple. That first half was atrocious. Throw it in the bin. It was in the bin. It's a disgrace to everything Man United's built. Those kind of first halves. It was awful. Second half, much better, much improved. We need to get better at winning duels because that's the reason why we always get countered is because our players can't win 1v1s. It's annoying as hell. The midfield and the attack need to be more together because there's so much space between everybody. When one person has the ball, there's only one option. When the opposition team has the ball, they have three options. We need to fix that. So many things to fix. But shout out to Harry Maguire because he's kept his head down. He's just kept working hard, working hard. He's got an opportunity. He took it, and now he played again, and he scored the winning goal. So you know what, Harry? Fair play. You're not everyone's cup of tea. You're one of probably the most disliked footballers on the planet, but you've held it, and you're playing well. Just keep doing this. You can be in the team if you just keep doing this. Okay, just keeping it simple, scoring with your big fat ass head, and I'm happy. And you know what? People have been getting on Onana, and I'm so glad he saved that flipping pen, because one, it wasn't a pen, and two, the headlines would have been all over the place with him. He can't save anything. He let another goal in. All these different things they would have put on his head. So I'm so glad Onana saved that. Shout out to Onana, because he also made that amazing save at the start of the second half as well. So he's played a crucial part in both of our wins back to back. And again, he's another player. Just keep the form coming up. But we need to talk about our attackers. I can't say any more right now because giving everyone else a chance to speak. But Terry, the attack is messed up. And also, that super chat at the end was about Garnacho messing up the penalty spot.
Yeah, it is. And obviously, there's loads of people on the panel. So not everyone's, if there's something, I want to say this to the panel when we have these big shows. We can't have everybody give a full match review of what they think. We're going to talk about subjects. And if there's something really pressing, bring it up. Otherwise, we literally are here for like 3 hours. But Staffy, from an attacking point of view, what's going wrong with this team? Because I understand the notion of drop Rashford. I advocate for it. But Garnacho comes on making the same mistakes. Anthony's doing nothing on the right-hand side. Højlund, look, some good bits, but not scoring goals. How do Man United score more goals?
Well, we're not building up. Well, when KJ's saying, let's keep it simple, what is keeping it simple, KJ? You said, stop doing what you're doing. I actually don't know what he's doing. What I'm seeing is Rashford picking up the ball from the halfway line like he's Ryan Giggs. Pick up the Griggs because he was on my watch along and he said that he was like, he thinks he's Ryan Giggs. He's picking up the ball from the halfway line like he's a left mid. No, he's a left winger. We're not getting our wingers in positions to pick up the ball closer to the goal. And that's why we always have them double teamed and triple teamed. I mean, don't get me wrong. Both of them had one-on-one chances and they missed it. They didn't even miss it. Sorry. They just both had poor touches and the ball ran away from them. So they're not doing their part. But our buildup just makes no sense. And to have, what's his name, come at halftime, we're taking out our only number 6 available, which is Amrabat, and we're keeping McTominay for what? To do what? Kay just complaining about the buildup, and he's saying there's too many spaces. No, there's no spaces, but when you actually look at the number 6 that we have, he's not showing up to the ball. But that's nothing new. Like, it sounds like I'm plagiarizing everyone because everyone knows that and everyone says that. So I honestly don't know what Ten Hag is doing. I didn't even celebrate the Maguire goal. I wanted us to win, don't get me wrong, but I was just that pissed that for once I didn't celebrate a goal. The only thing I celebrated, though, was the Onana save. I don't know where Neji went because I wanted Neji to talk about Onana because he's had a lot to say about him all season. And listen, I said, just one last thing. I just want to remind everyone. I said I'm dying on that hill alone. I was like, when everyone turns their backs on Onana, I'm gonna be the only one with him. Yeah, you were there when I said that. Neeks? I'm upset that Neeks is not here. Neeks, get your ass here because you at me and you're always like, get your stuff and come collect your goalkeeper. I collected my goalkeeper today. So.
And we will bring that up as a subject later on in the show. Yeah, we will do that. Just want to go through a few bits and pieces. We'll come back to Man United soon. I want to go to Saad. Arsenal, first win away in Spain since 2006. One of only a handful of teams in the past decade to win away in Europe at Sevilla. How proud were you of the performance and the win tonight from Arsenal?
Win is massive. Win was massive today. I feel like just looking at the game as a whole, I think for me, first half we came out. A lot of people would have to say about Saka's performance. They'd say a really bad first half, wasn't anywhere to be seen. But I think a lot what Saka was doing in that first half was really defending. Like, that's majority of what his work was in that game or in that first half was him just defending and helping Ben White, because on the flanks they were just non-stop from the right side to the left side, and they were just putting the ball over to the left side, and then they go from the right side over to the left side. So they were just relentless. But I think overall the first half was not necessarily shaky, but it's what you expect from an away game when you go away, especially in Europe. The goal from Martinelli, he had a few chances. He had a few chances in the first half, which he did miss. But Gabriel Jesus, the quick thinking to be able to just flick it back and pass it. Like literally, he looked up once and passed it straight away. Like just that instinct there to just quickly pass the ball to make sure that the attacker can get through on goal is just wicked. And the finish was just amazing. He just went past the keeper. For me, Odegaard is a massive issue in not only this game. This is, I think it's really becoming an issue now. How much Odegaard just really is disappearing in games. He's not asking. Like for me, it's not even about if he doesn't have to just score a goal or assist a goal for me to recognize him in a game. But I want Odegaard to ask for the ball more. Call for the ball. Say, I want it. Give it to me. Let me try do something. Let me be on the ball more. And just one last thing. Actually, two last things. Tomiyasu, amazing in this game. Amazing in this game. I've been calling for Tomiyasu to go on that left back position. I've been calling for it for so long. And finally, Tomiyasu was put in that position. He showed us what it is to be in that position. He grabbed it with both hands, the opportunity, and he made sure, like, listen, I'm here to stay. I want to be here. I want to play in this team more in this position. David Raya, unfortunately for me, another mare of a game. He made a couple of good saves, but overall, that last chance where he tried punching, I don't know, this man was trying to do a Superman dive. I don't know what he was trying to do. And he nearly punched it into his own net. My heart was in my mouth. And Declan Rice, a true performance from Declan Rice. I can't say it any more times that this guy is one of the best players on the pitch for us. Obviously, Gabriel Jesus got the man of the match, but Declan Rice is just relentless. The amount of times in my watch along I sat there and said, Declan Rice again for us. He literally defensively pushing the ball forward, driving forward with the ball, just a great win to be honest, a great win, and a finish from Gabriel Jesus as well. What a finish. For the people that say that Gabriel Jesus can't finish, hold that, because he did today. What a finish. Top right corner, man. But it's a great win from us, man. Great win. I can't be more happier.
I hear you on that. Nathan, I know you're someone that backs what Arsenal were doing. Do you concur great win, still some problems with the performance, or do you just look at this as it's a really hard away tie in the Champions League and that's the biggest focus?
I mean, in isolation, it's a great win. You go away in the Champions League game to Seville, who've got a solid European pedigree, and you grind out a 2-1 result. You've got to be happy, and obviously that puts us in a position where we're close to kind of qualifying, and if we win our next game against Seville at home, we're almost certain we're close to finishing top of the group, which would be massive. In terms of problems, I think there's been, with the changes that have kind of come into the squad, Declan Rice coming in and Jorginho playing at 6, I think we're struggling to get that whole right side involved in the game. I see Odegaard is struggling. I feel Saka's struggling. And I feel like it's to do with the fact that we don't play as many vertical passes. We're not getting them on the ball as quick as possible. So Odegaard is not really a creative in the sense of a KDB or even a Maddison or a Bruno where he whips balls in and creates from deep areas. He's more of a player that shines when he's playing between the lines. And when you look at how we move around, and we saw a similar pattern against Chelsea where we move the ball left to right, but we don't really progress the ball forward that quickly. And as a result, that whole right side is struggling immensely. So I think whilst you're getting results, it's all well and dandy, but we've got to try to find a way to get the best out of two players in Odegaard and Saka, who were our shining lights last season. And maybe it might have to be the manager doing some sort of tactical tweak and finding a way to get the best out of Odegaard, because at the minute he's drowning. He's not involved in the game. He was a passenger in that first half. Second half as well, didn't do nothing, missed a easy chance, and he's very rarely on the ball in areas where he can affect the game. And I think that's been a common theme this season for Arsenal. And a big criticism for him.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, is this a case of just the likes of Odegaard being out of form? Is it better to play him? Do you think that he needs to be dropped? Or is this just a case of where our standards are higher now and we need to demand more from these players week in, week out? Do you think it's fair that even with the win, the likes of Odegaard are picking up so much criticism?
To be honest, no one's free from criticism, to be honest. So you can't really try and choose how you criticize a player. Everyone's free to criticize them in their own way. I do think some of the abuse is way over the top though, and social media has this thing of everyone saying the same stuff and thinking it's cool to who can say Odegaard first. But yeah, he's out of form. He's not playing his best, nowhere near his best. But I'm a massive Odegaard fan, so I'm behind him. I'm just hoping that he can pick it up, return to his old ways, and Arteta taking him off is even a good thing, man. If he's playing crap, get him out of there. Like I like the way Arteta doesn't hesitate to make substitutions. You saw against Chelsea, the likes of Jesus, Zinchenko, Odegaard, our big players are coming off because if they're not playing well, they're not playing well. I just hope Odegaard can turn it around, really.
And you know what? Really, really quickly. I didn't watch the Arsenal game, so I'm literally just going off of what you man are saying. But for me, here is where my problem lies. When people start tossing around these world-class tags after a couple months and that. You have to see a body of work over a long period of time before we can start tossing around. He's world class. He's world class. He's world class. At this rate, by Arsenal, well, a lot of Arsenal fans, you guys got a full world class 11, and now
I
you
don't
got
think
man
anyone
going
was calling
missing.
Odegaard world class, to be honest. I don't think so.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. Yes,
I think there's a
were.
big distinction between performing at a world class level and being world class.
Yeah,
So
I don't
I
think
think
we
that was the
decided he was
difference.
world class after one season of football.
So even
Nah,
like
I'm not
likes
hearing
of
that.
Saliba,
No.
I think
even
he's
the likes
world
of
class
Saliba,
anyway. I'll be honest.
There you
who's
go.
played
See, we got
at
one
world.
right here, fam. We got one right here talking about he world class. This is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, well, he's top class anyway. Like whatever,
He could
however you
be,
want to label him.
and that's fine. You could be a great player. You could be fantastic. You could be the best player on the team, even. But when you start tossing around these world class tags, that's when I'm like, hold on, wait a minute, fam. What are we actually talking about? What does world class even mean anymore?
Let me ask you a question. Yeah,
World-class players
can
can
a
have
world
bad
class
games,
player
though.
be off form? Yeah, can a world class player be off form?
A world class player can be off form. However, you have to have a long enough body of work to say this is just a blip.
Wait, so if a world class player can be off form, why are you then saying I thought he was world class? Maybe he's just off form.
Hear what I did? You hear what I just said?
But
I said
bro,
you have to have a long enough body of work, years and years and years of performing at the very, very top
I don't think
level.
we've reached the point in Odegaard's tenure at Arsenal to start saying,
agreed.
no, I don't think we've reached that point in Odegaard's tenure at Arsenal to start saying, long enough body of work. He's a top class player, mate.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I agree with what you're saying. I think Odegaard is, but this is what happens in 2023. A player like Odegaard could have 18 months where he's sensational, and then he hits some bad form, as you're seeing now, and you get the CI always knew from certain groups. CI always knew he was of this standard, and this is the difference. I can call for Rashford to be dropped. I'm not one of these people that thinks he should never kick a ball for Man United again because he's in terrible form right now, because I don't necessarily think that's true. Does that mean I'm not that I don't want us to sign? If there's a chance of signing someone better that performs more regularly, I want that as well. I'm not a fanboy. I want Man United on my preference. And I just think there's so many people now when it comes to the analysing of players. Professionals do it as well. There's a lot of I told you so. There's a lot of I told you so because of one good moment or a poor run of games. And I'm sure the Odegaards and the Sakas of this world their performance levels are going to increase and go to another level. We've created this weird space in football where we talk about football players and teams like they can't go in and out of form. This has been happening since day dot. There's literally been 2 players in my lifetime who I've seen barely drop form for 15 years, and that's Messi and Ronaldo. They are not the rule. They are beyond exceptions. Everybody else goes through up and down times. And you could argue R9 before the knee injuries. Outside of that, most players go through really tough periods. There was a time at my club where Giggs was in his early 30s and he was being booed week in, week out by the Old Trafford faithful because he went through such a bad period. He was close to being sold. He was so poor. He then went on to play for another 8 years and won 5 more titles at Champions League and was absolutely brilliant. And you sometimes just have to persevere, I think. And you're right. I think Odegaard should be criticised for what's going on right now. But the remedy for it is always so extreme. Sell him, by someone else. And the irony is the new guy that comes in. Well, everyone knows something. James Maddison is probably the most informed attacking midfielder right now in the league. He will hit dry patches this season, next season, maybe at some point. Because he isn't of a level where he's going to maintain what he's doing now for every single game for the rest of his career, for every single month for the rest of his career. It's mental what we're creating as football fans.
You know what, Terry, you know what the issue is as well? Like, as fan bases, we have these things where we create stands, or we have people on Twitter who glorify, who are overhyped players, and you'll get it within every fan base. So, you know, again, with Odegaard, world-class, he was in world-class form. But as a guy mentioned earlier, you've got to do it for a sustained period of time. You've got to have a body of work. But we're so quick, or people on Twitter are so quick to build players up and then destroy them. So it's almost like when they're in that vein of form, it's they're the best ever. And then as soon as they start to falter or not have or drop in form, everybody wants to shit on them and get onto them. And that's the kind of culture Twitter's kind of developed, where when people are playing well, they're the best, and when people are not, they're the worst. There's no in between. There's no no grey area.
Can I just say one thing? Sorry, just about Odegaard, just quickly. Yeah, I think today was very important because that was a statement sub there. The substitution that Mikel Arteta made there, you could see that Odegaard was fuming when he got subbed off. It was a statement sub for him to bring on Havertz instead of him when Havertz has been out of the team. Statement sub, man. I feel like now that that's happened to Martin Odegaard finally, he might start to pick it up now. That might have hurt him, and sometimes players get hurt and end up improving. Because you have to deal with. That's why Alex Ferguson was the best, because he'd have different ways of. He would never deal with one player like he would with Eric Cantona. He'd always deal with Eric Cantona different. So the way that he's subbed him off there, he could come back. And we've never really seen Odegaard get subbed off like that and be angry and vex, and you know what I mean, how he could come back. So I feel like that's important that he was able to get subbed off there, and we could actually have a chance to see something, see anger in his performance.
And what I will say to close out my point, I suppose, is that it's not necessarily an attack on Arsenal fans. United fans do it too, and it's not a case of Arsenal fans are deluded. It's a case of football fans are setting up their best players to fail. They are doomed to fail when you put them on the moon, and they will invariably have to come back to earth at some point. So let's relax on the super hype. He's world class. He's world class. He's world class. They're playing fantastic. Let them play ball, and then once they've put the body of work together, now you can call them world class after they've won a whole bunch of things. That's my.
That being said, though, Onana and Maguire are world class tonight. That's all I'm saying, right? It's for all the people getting upset in the comments. That's called sarcasm. But we'll come back to Arsenal in a few moments. So make sure you're staying with us. Make sure like buttons are being smashed. Sunshine, Onana tonight, Maguire tonight. Two players that I know you've criticised in the past. Both really stepped up tonight and helped the team. What did you make of their performances individually?
Individually, I think much better, man. I like to. I'm one of those fans who makes, again, honest, brutal criticism in the hope that they prove me wrong, because the criticism there is because you want them to improve. Every time they put a United shirt on, you want to see the improvements on a pitch. So, I can back that up by many tweets that I put out when I see my players that I heavily criticize. You'll also see some positives from me, because I'll notice things and go, you've proved me wrong there. Now I have to highlight that, because my bias is towards my club, not players I rate or don't rate. So for me, Harry Maguire, I think you said it as well, like he had that interview in England and it looked like he was going to repeat the same thing of a case of put the pressure on yourself and, you're going to start getting booed again, you're going to make a mistake. But for me, you show competence. And my biggest critic of him since he even joined, even at England, was he was incompetent under pressure. I didn't rate his mindset, never have. And at Manchester United, as a centre-back, you're meant to have competent centre-backs no matter what. Whether you're fast or you don't matter, competence is massive for me. And he showed that today, so I have to respect that. Those are standards that I hold to this club, and that's what I want to see. So for me, Harry Maguire gets his absolute props. And of course, there's going to be parts of his game that, you know, I don't rate as a player, but that's not, I'm not going to, again, I don't do that with players where I talk about surface level things and make it bigger than what it is. At the end of the day, was he effective in what he did? Did he have more pros and cons in his game? Yes, he did. And did he manage that well? Yes, he did. Did it result in my team doing better where my bias lies? 100%. So he smashed it tonight. So, yeah, I got my man of the match as well against, I think it was Brentford. I think he got my man of the match against Brentford as well. So he's proving, you know, the fair sayers, shall we say, wrong. And that's good. You know, I shouldn't have to be coming on here talking about the basics and criticising basic things of certain players. I don't believe I should be in that situation as a Man United fan. But the reality is we have these players and they have to step up. And how ironic is it, Terry, that he was a player that was dubbed to be leaving, same with Scott McTominay. So massive performance from him tonight. But on Onana, look, we everyone was raving about the kicking, this, and this. We're bigging up saves, which is the most important part of being a goalkeeper. And rightly so. Because I've always said, if you're going to replace De Gea, make sure you replace the pros and the cons, not just the cons one for another. And today he stepped up, not only the penalty, but it was a big save, huge save. And that reminded me of the free kick De Gea saved against Juan Mata that turned his season around. And I hope that penalty has some significance for him moving forward, because it's not that he's a dead goalkeeper. I've never actually criticised him for being a poor shot stopper. I think what we're seeing from Onana at the moment is below average. And I think it's a bit of a nasty purple patch. I don't think he's actually that bad, in my honest opinion. I do think he's a bit clunky, chunky. I don't think he's very agile on his feet. I think he gets stuck in the ground a little bit too easy, and that's why he doesn't get down quick enough. For those who appreciate the art of goalkeeping, you may resonate with what I've just said there. But I think for me personally, keeping the ball out of the net is one of the main things, especially in a team that is nowhere near ready to play Ten Hag football, with the profiles just not set up like it is at Inter Milan. And until that's fixed, Onana can't excel with the kicking aspects of the game until that's done. Because even when he was kicking tonight, they were finding other players. And I wasn't someone who got down De Gea's throat for that. At no point was I going, oh, he doesn't find a play, this. Because really and truly, they were surface level things that I personally feel, which was highlighted and blown up as a reason to get rid of a goalkeeper that, in my opinion, didn't need to go just yet. So he has to step up and continue these saves. And I want him to do well, Terry. Like I said, never had an agenda. He's just not as good as De Gea at saving. And so when you replace the pros with the pros with cons in a goalkeeper, there's more impetus on the team actually being able to finish, which is, as you know, I continue to say, we need goal scorers. And I know KJ spoke about this, but if you're going to concede more goals this season because you don't have as good a quality of a saver in goal, then I need to see goals. We haven't improved the main area I called out last season, which were goals, clinical finishers. Get me 2 clinical finishers on top of a great defensive network that we had. We don't have that in the team. So we're going to need Onana to step up and continue this form.
Yeah, absolutely. And Staffy, I know you mentioned it earlier. You're someone that, you know, didn't sell your stock in this individual. How proud were you of Onana tonight? Because it was a big moment for him in terms of his Man United career.
Brendan, why are you looking at me like that? You have goalkeeper issues. Don't look at me like that when I'm being asked a question. Go worry about Raya and Ramsdale. I don't even know who started first.
I remember a certain someone saying that Onana was the best goalkeeper in the world when he signed for Man United.
What?
Anyways.
What?
No, he's joking. Anyways, Brendan's a bit shameless sometimes. But anyways, what was the question?
Yeah, you said that. You said that. You said it.
I'm just going to go on mute, man.
Just sort of ascertaining how important you think that moment could be for Onana and his Man United career.
Najee, I think, said it perfectly. He reminded me of the Gea save. And if anyone watched United back then, if you guys are old enough, you would remember that De Gea had a horrible season. Obviously, he was much younger than Onana, so I'm not even putting them on the same book together. But when he made that save against Juan Mata, that kind of turned his career around at that point, because he was having a terrible first season. And I hope I said that Onana's not playing. He's not playing good 100%. It was so easy to see, but he's not that bad of a goalkeeper. Do we have doubts on his goalkeeping ability, like when it comes to shot stopping and all that? 100%. You know, you could tell that he's not as agile as De Gea used to be. Yes, De Gea wasn't in his prime last season, but there was some point where De Gea was just saving everything and anything. Is Onana ever going to be that? I don't think so. But he also wasn't that bad when he was making the mistakes against Bayern. When he made the mistake against what was it, Brentford? These are goalkeeping mistakes that are like you can't look at him. You're like, oh, he's that bad. No, because every goalkeeper should be able to save these. It was more of a confidence level, and I hope that today, after making that save, that helps him turns his season around because we all know he can pass the ball. We all know he can do that part. But the shot stopping part, even if you're not that good, you shouldn't have been that bad like you were against Bayern in the Galatasaray game and the Brentford game. So you said it perfectly. I hope he turns it around from here.
That first.
And by the way, back to the Brandon part. We were on a show on his channel where I shamelessly said I am running an agenda. Now that we signed him, I'm gonna call him the best goalkeeper in the world. It was a joke. It was a part they took out the agenda part where I said, and they clipped the rest because they wanted to do.
I'm not surprised. Brandon is Lee Gunner's son, and Lee Gunner does that to me a lot. To be fair, do you know
That's
what I mean?
happens when you hang out with the gal too much, by the way, because that blue tick got him acting different. They see the blue tick and they just try to clickbait anything. But
with all due respect, I have a blue tick, but blue ticks don't mean anything anymore because anyone can have one. It used to be something special. No, I'm joking. It didn't mean fuck all back then either. It didn't. I want to do some of these super chats here. This here says Odegaard gone, ghost again. Havertz on for him again. Bench Odegaard. Brandon, do you agree with that? Would you bench Odegaard?
You have to say yes right now, Tel, because he's not performing great. He hasn't performed great all season. He's ghosting in big away games, especially. You know, he was one of the worst players on the pitch at the weekend against Chelsea. And he was probably one of the worst on the pitch again today. You know, he had moments today where he should be doing better with his passing, his through balls. But I don't think we was that great as a whole, to be honest with you. I think the first half was very boring, lethargic, sideways, backwards. We scored the goal against the run of play. Very good goal, by the way. Jesus with an excellent turn. A nice way to pass for Gabriel Martinelli. Cool, calm and collected. And then in the second half was weird because we came out after half time and for a 5-10 minute period there, we looked like the Arsenal of last season. We were scintillating going forward, quick one touch, two touch passing in and around, you know, the area. The front three were interchanging really, really well. Gabriel Martinelli with the energy, Jesus with, you know, the second goal, which was an excellent finish. You know, too many times this season I've complained about players getting in that position and then always playing the ball across the box. Well, sometimes you just have to shoot from that position, and Jesus finished that excellently. And then, you know, we kind of switch off from a corner. Maybe our man marking needs to be a little bit better. And Sevilla get the goal, and then it kind of changes and switches on its head again to a point where we're having to do a lot of the defending. And the thing is I quite like that and the way that we stood up tonight because we defended our area really, really well. Gabriel, Saliba and Tomiyasu in particular were really, really good. And Declan Rice, right? I'm going to say it here and I'm going to say it now. And people probably say this is a bit too reactionary. Just give him the armband, for God's sake. Because week in, week out, this is the one guy that stands up in the tough moments. Every single week, without fail. He stood up against Chelsea. He stood up again tonight. You know, he's always in and around, you know, the man of the match for Arsenal so far this season. He's proven, you know, his worth. And he's kind of come into Arsenal and taken to it like a duck to water. And I think he has been a big part of the reason why we've managed to kind of get through these games, even though we've not been performing that great. Because, like I say, in the sticky moments, when you need somebody who's going to stand up and be counted, Declan Rice is stood up and he's counted most of the time, 99% of the time, whereas Odegaard is the complete opposite. You know, when you really need this guy, and you really need this guy to stand up in the big moments and produce something, that's when Odegaard, he faults and he ghosts. And unfortunately,
What about last season?
Last season, I thought he was very good. Last season, with his goal contributions, you got everything that you wanted from Odegaard last season. Even
You can't
in,
label him a ghost after about 5
But not
games.
even that. I think it's too simplistic to call him. For me, you got to look at the problems that we have because we're passing the ball sideways repetitively, which means we're not moving the ball forward to give it to him in the areas where you want him to influence. I've always had this thing like we used to have Olivier Giroud, and we never used to cross the ball when he was up front. But then when Theo Walcott would come up, we'd start swinging balls in, and it always confused me. Like you've got to play to the strengths of your players, and I feel like with Odegaard, I feel like he's not playing well.
Yeah.
Like Chelsea, he was horrible, but I also feel like the way in which we're playing as a whole is not getting the best of both him and Saka because that whole right space, the way in which we're passing forward, we're just a sideways team at the moment where we're controlling the ball, but we're not doing much with the ball, and that's been a big part of this whole.
For me, I
I
just think Arsenal fans need to be careful to not overdo it. The same way they say don't overpraise when it's well. When it's going bad, you can't just overdo it, man. Because last season, Newcastle away when he banged it in, Spurs away when he banged it in. There's Chelsea home, United away. He's already scored there previously in his early Arsenal career. United home this season. There's big games where he scored in, so we can't then call him a ghost and label him a ghost.
I mean, to be
No,
fair,
no. Can I
in
just say,
retrospect, yeah.
I agree to a certain point, right? What you've also got to factor in is Martin Odegaard isn't just another player. He's the captain. When your backs are against the wall and you're looking around the pitch for somebody to take the game by the scruff of the neck, 99% of the time, the person that you're looking for is your captain. And he has a tendency of kind of, I'm not going to say hiding, but not disappearing, but
you know what's really interesting about
cowering in the
sorry
moment.
to interject you. Do you know what's really interesting? At Man United, we get annoyed that our captain isn't taken off when he maybe isn't at his best, or sometimes Bruno isn't even having a stinker. But you think, right, we need to bring on somebody else. But you think, right now with how we're playing, sacrificing Bruno would probably maybe help benefit the team, and we never do it. What I find interesting about Arsenal is that you guys do sometimes sacrifice him in games. Sometimes he isn't even that bad. Sometimes he is, but that's then looked at as, well, he can't be very good if he's the one who's being substituted off. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying United fans are right. I just find it's very interesting how two fan bases view the subbing or not subbing of their captains so differently. It's intriguing to me.
But my man in the corner who said about, we're not getting the best out of him because the way we're playing. I agree with that, by the way. And that does come down to the manager, right? But also, the player has to stand up as well, in certain moments and be counted. But I agree. Like, I think the reason why we're seeing poor performances, or I wouldn't say poor performances, but not as great as what they were last season, is because Arteta's changed too much in a short space of time. At the top level, most games are won and lost in the midfield. Our midfield is completely different to what it was last season. We've got no Thomas Partey in there because he's been out injured, and he's injured again, by the way, which to me means that we have to move him on because people say the best ability is availability, and he's just not available. So, you need to move him on, I think. We've lost Granit Xhaka out of there as well. So that's a complete new midfield apart from Odegaard. So I understand, why there might be not.
But that's not really on your manager, is it? If Thomas Partey's body's broken down and Xhaka wanted to leave, like, there also comes a point where you have to look beyond Xhaka because of age.
Yeah.
Man United made this big mistake years ago where we kept Vidic and Rio because they were still two of the best centre-backs in the world. And by the time they were not good enough for us anymore, we'd missed out on other top talent. And we still haven't replaced them, to be honest with you. Like Varane, maybe, but it's a difficult one.
We haven't really replaced Xhaka at all, though, Tel, because when you think about it, right, people say we replaced Xhaka with Havertz. We haven't, because Havertz, he started playing in the 8 role, hasn't been great in that 8 role, and now we seem to have found a position for him where he can come on late in games and do the role of holding the ball up in that 9, area. So I look at that position in particular, and I just think we haven't really got anybody who can do that Xhaka thing. Yeah. And then on top of that, we've decided to change the goalkeeper as well and bring in David Raya. who, I've said on a couple of occasions now, when we first signed him, I thought, this is a proper upgrade on Aaron Ramsdale. But so far, I think it's very minimal, if that.
I get where you're coming from, and obviously we want to try and touch on in these points in turn. It's an interesting super chat here about Arsenal. It says Arsenal fans are always disappointed because they disrespect the opponent. That was a damn good win and performance, but people here with ugly faces. Again, I'm only seeing this as an outsider. Very few teams in the last decade have gone to Sevilla in Europe and won. You've gone there and beat them. And I think you were relatively comfortable. Yes, there were some moments, but this is away against Sevilla. This is one of those games for me where I don't think you can expect to go there, have 65, 70% of the ball, barely concede a chance, beat them 3-0 and walk away, because nobody does that. That for me, it's the same as all the Arsenal fans that literally thought they were going to Stamford Bridge and were going to steamroll Chelsea. Tells me you're either deluding yourself or you haven't watched Chelsea this season. It was never going to be as easy as... I do think this is right. There are a percentage of Arsenal fans that even when you guys were invincible, do you know how many of those games you only narrowly avoided defeat or won? It wasn't like you blew everybody away 4-0 every week. Honestly, I do think football fans think it's FIFA. Or Football Manager, once you get 6 seasons in, you just win every game easy. Your best striker you signed scores 50 goals a year. It's a computer game. It ain't bloody reality. Honestly, I do think there's an element here. Criticise poor performances, yes. But I do think some Arsenal fans, at the moment, they talk about standards, but their standards are so overinflated because City struggled against this team this season. City gone away from Europe last year multiple times, they won it. They drew games, struggled to win games. This notion that you're going to go away from home in Europe and be dominant in every game, it's nonsense to me. The teams that win the Champions League don't do that in every single away game. Honestly, I think that super chat's spot on in my opinion. This here says the problem is not Odegaard. Vieira is ready, and so is Emil Smith-Rowe. This idea that a captain can't be benched is nonsense. Arteta needs to rotate but doesn't. Do you agree with that, Jason? Is that a fair comment here from AJ?
Yeah, that's a fair comment because he has his favourites out there. Odegaard's keep on starting week in, week out. There's certain other players, Saka. I mean, with Saka, even though he had poor games throughout the season, he needs to be rotated within the right-hand side. There's certain other players that, he has his favourites on. But, yeah, I mean, I feel like with Odegaard, I feel like he needs to be benched right now for the next game. I mean, he's been playing poor as well. So, yeah, I feel like Arteta has his favourites. He needs to rotate even more. So,
Terry, can I just touch on the captaincy quickly?
Yeah, go on, mate.
I feel like there's this old school mentality, this archaic mentality when it comes to captaincy. Like, obviously, I grew up on Vieira, Roy Keane, etc. But I feel like Odegaard is never going to be a Patrick Vieira or Roy Keane type of leader. He's more of a technical leader in terms of he'll shine when you give him the ball. Fabregas was a bit similar in that sense, where he wasn't going to scream and shout and be a Declan Rice. He leads in a different way. So I kind of think it's unrealistic to expect players to do things that are not natural to them. Like, I can never expect Giroud to play like Mbappe because he just doesn't have the attributes. It just seems silly from my perspective to expect something from someone who doesn't have.
And do you know what's interesting? What I will say is this as well. I think it might have been Roy Keane who said it, but you don't have to wear the armband to be a captain. If, for instance, if the other players are only going to listen more to Declan Rice if he's got the armband on them without it, you've got a bigger problem than Declan Rice wearing the armband. I just don't think to a degree, I think we are one of the only countries who overinflates the importance of the armband as a thing. The tangible element is your leadership. You could have 5 captains out there. It shouldn't really. The guy that's doing the coin toss and shaking of the hands, that doesn't change anything. That's almost a ceremonial element. Leadership is leadership. So I do get where you're coming from on that. I do. Cameron's here with us. Obviously a United fan. I want to ask you about the midfield. Because again, even in the early moments of the game, mistake from Amrabat, counter-attacks, it always seems to go through our midfield. A lot of people at the start of the season said it's Casemiro because he's finished. The last 2 games have been the Casemiro, and we're being counted in exactly the same way. That tells me
Yeah.
It's a system issue, the same as our attack. All the players are struggling in the attack. It can't be, I think it's system based. What needs to happen to improve Man United's midfield? Because City are going to cut through us like a hot knife through butter on Sunday if we play like that.
I think with the midfield, you're spot on with Casemiro. It's not his fault. People are saying Casemiro's legs are gone. The legs don't just vanish after one season. That's not how football works. You see a gradual, deterioration of somebody's physical abilities, and we haven't seen that with Casemiro. I think it just comes down to the system, as you said, and the personnel. Because I don't see why Mason Mount didn't play tonight. He was rested over the weekend. Mason Mount brings that intensity on both sides of the pitch. He works hard off the ball and on the ball as well. He's able to retain it. So I don't know why he didn't play. Amrabat, I think apart from making that mistake, he was all right. He kept it simple. He's a bit of he's the opposite to Casemiro. Casemiro always wants to give that first time pass. So sometimes it comes off, sometimes it doesn't. Amrabat kind of takes a touch and scans before doing it. So he brought some calm to us. But obviously he hasn't got the technical ability that Eriksen has. And Ten Hag always says after the game, Eriksen comes on, I brought Eriksen on to play football. So to me, that translates as you're starting the game playing anti-football. If Eriksen is needed to play football, in the manager's opinion, and the manager has said it, why are you not starting games to play football? Do you get what I'm saying?
I'm sorry that comment was taken so out of context, broski. And I think it's easily done. I think it's natural. I think it's nature for us, not saying it's intentional, but I think it's natural that we as British people, we are quite arrogant to the foreign language and the context in which things are said by foreign managers. When he made that comment, it was clipped up in 2 seconds like, oh, basically he's saying we didn't play football. In my opinion, and I'll be very, very honest, and I spoke to Aaron about this as well, and some of the takes, I think it was taken massively out of context in terms of simply just saying he wanted to play football like he was being disrespectful and digging at Casemiro. I think he was, again, what's the word I'm after? Sorry. He summarized the details by just saying I wanted to play ball. So ultimately play in a different way. And I think that's ultimately what it would have come down to, as opposed to I'm being disrespectful to Casemiro. But we as Brits, on first sight, we clip it up, we look at it and go, see, he's come for Casemiro now, and we make something out of it. And then you get a couple of Twitter fans who were trying to build their followers by sharing clout. Do you know what I mean?
Even beside, we can forget about the football comment, but let's go back to the point at hand.
Go on.
The midfield balance is just off. And we haven't found the combination that works. And as much as Mason Mount is an enigma to me right now in terms of how he's going to fit in there, we've not really seen him play. He's been injured for the start of the season. Now he's come back. He's on the bench, not getting a lot of minutes. We haven't seen him next to Amrabat. We haven't seen him if he can do a role that Eriksen can do. Obviously not as well, because I think Eriksen is technically better than him. But he can bring more energy to the team. He can bring a bit of drive from the midfield that we've been lacking for so long. And I still think he's got enough technical ability to help keep the ball and spread the ball into the positions that Eriksen was spread into too. And that's the issue here. Like, we haven't got a midfield balance. I've seen a comment with Ten Hag saying we haven't had a set back line that we did last season, and so many things have been changing this year compared to last year. That's why we're not looking as fluid. But he has a chance to set certain things up in the right way. Right now, he's sticking with the same attack that's not scoring, but changing the midfield and the defense.
But if you're him, KJ, who are you bringing on? Because you look at Garnacho again. Everyone's talking about Garnacho coming on, etc., etc. He made just as many mistakes as what Rashford was doing, and Rashford's having a down patch, and this is no different. So the reality,
he looks much
just
better.
to land, just to land. Sorry, sorry, bro. Just to land the point so you can rebuttal. The reality of the situation is the injuries and the changing of profiles are literally damaging the way we want. We can't even build a foundation to play the way Ten Hag wants to do. We haven't even seen him with a fully fit 11, even with profiles that he hasn't chosen himself, that he's got to inherit, to then go, okay, there's 10 games straight with the same players that we can go and do. We haven't got no replacement. So not only is he battling the profile changes, but then at the same time, he's having to rely on the same people, because at least he can try and get something out. So, for example, I think Bruno and Rashford should be dropped. However, if you drop them, how are you going to replace the creative stats when your front three and midfield aren't ultimately your creators, and our best goal scorers are midfielders at the moment? There's so many cons to replacing these levels. You know what I mean? I'm not saying Bruno don't need to be dropped. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying those things because he does. And there are games when he's woeful, but it's a bigger risk taking him off because he can't then replace the creativity that he may get 1 in 10 chances to even see out a game. So what would you do with the players that are available at the moment?
Personally, listen, I'm saying you play Amrabat and you bring in Mason Mount because he's been a player that you've bought in for big money. You've put a lot on him in terms of like the 7 shirt and all these different things that he said during when he bought him in. Play him next to Amrabat right now because Casemiro's injured, and when Casemiro comes back, you know what? Try Mount.
Do you know what I don't think? What I don't think's working for our midfield, is having two 8s. I don't really get the numbers pushing up because it's happened in most games this season. Bruno pushes up and goes more to the right. Whether it's Mount, whether it's McTominay in the last few games, he's pushing up and going towards the left. And then when we get caught in the transition, they're sticking bodies in that hole, hoping we give the ball away. And then whoever that midfielder is, Amrabat at the moment, Casemiro, they're being outnumbered. Now, neither Amrabat or Casemiro are the fastest players in the world. So if they had the speed of a Van Dijk, it maybe not be as big of an issue. I think we've got to go back to having a double pivot. Yes, one of them against the lesser teams who sit back deeper can push further forward. We don't need to be overly rigid with it. But what we need to do is get Bruno Fernandes playing off the striker again. That's part of the midfield. It's part of the attack. I know he's not everybody's biggest fan, but for me, his first 2.5 years at the club, that is where he played. When Cristiano Ronaldo joined Man United, that is when we started seeing Bruno's role at the club change. Since that point, he creates quite a lot still, but he scores less and he is assisted less. And when he was scoring and when he was assisting at that level, it was phenomenal. We need to get that back. Otherwise, there's very little point to Bruno Fernandes. So for me, Bruno Fernandes is not going to sit deep, drop out wide and be Xavi. He's not going to be Iniesta. Just as Nathan said a few minutes ago, I don't judge Bruno by what he can't do. I judge him on what he's brilliant at. I'm frustrated he's not being used in that way. Judging a goldfish by its ability to climb a tree is stupid. That isn't what Bruno Fernandes is. You put him off that striker. Some people can call him a second striker. I don't really care what you classify him as. When that man was in that role, he scored more goals from that midfield role in a single season than any other British-based player in the history of British football. That is how good he is at that role. Put him there. And I know he didn't score tonight, but he came alive in that second half. It then meant that you made Copenhagen's midfielders drop deeper, which meant the guys in the middle had more time on the ball and they weren't being overrun on those counterattacks. That has to happen for me. Otherwise, you don't play Bruno Fernandes. If you want someone that's drifting and a little bit deeper, we've got to buy someone else. He's not good enough. He's okay at that, but he isn't brilliant at it. Look at him at Portugal when he was playing in a deeper role for Portugal under Santos. I know you hated him, KJ. This man, he got a few goals and assists, but he was just... I watched him and I was like, this ain't the Bruno of Man United. He was a different player. Now he's playing 20, 30 yards further up the pitch, in and around the front men. The guy's scoring and assisting in every game he's playing internationally. It's just, I know we live in this world where if we don't quite like someone for one reason or another, we moan about what they can't do. For me, when you look at a squad, you've got to utilize players at what they're good at. Casemiro and Amrabat, you have them sitting deeper. Mount, you get him running around, not like a headless chicken, with a strategy, pressing, winning the ball back and giving it to other people. Rashford tonight, again, I think he needs to be dropped. His confidence is gone. But he's being asked to, I know Staffy called it out earlier, but he's being asked to play so wide and deep to spread the play so we're wider. No disrespect again to Ten Hag. He is not a creative winger who's good at holding on to the ball. He is not Grealish. So you can't play him like that. He is an inside forward who likes to score goals. And if you're not playing him in a role where he's going to be getting those opportunities in abundance, we've got a problem. Second half, when we moved Rashford and we changed the middle, and Rashford went inside. Yes, his touch let him down, but how many times was he getting in and looking dangerous like last season? Now, if his confidence is there, he scores. And this is what we need to do. The manager has made so many changes too many of them haven't worked,
Yeah.
and it's leaving holes everywhere. So I don't believe in completely going back to what we did last year, but he's got to utilize people in positions. And we Man United fans, we've called this out for a decade. Stop putting square pegs in round holes, because it doesn't. It can work for a game or two. Even the likes of Fergie and Pep, the greats, they do it every now and then. They go, do you know what I'm going to do today to wind everyone up? I'm going to throw Phil Jones in midfield to man mark someone. And it might work for a game. It doesn't work 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games because they get worked out. And that, I think, will improve Man United. I think we'll be less vulnerable. Confidence will grow again. Will it make us as good as Man City? I'm not convinced right now. But will we win more? Listen, we're still not that far away from top 4. We beat Copenhagen away next, and we've got a really good chance, because I think Bayern will beat Galatasaray. We win our next game. I think Bayern win. We'll be second in the group. Then we have a genuine chance. 2 games remaining. Probably just need one more win, you know, and maybe we could pull something off and get out of this group. But if we keep playing how we are, as great as Maguire was tonight, as great as Onana's save was, it's all going to be in vain, because with the performances we're putting in, we're getting knocked out of the Champions League. It's as simple as that.
One last point on the attack. I think if you look over the years, the best teams have two main outlets of scoring goals. If you remember Liverpool, it was Mane and Salah. Man United were scoring a load of goals. It was Bruno and Rashford. When you look at, like, right now for Man City, it's Haaland and Alvarez. So teams need 2 main outlets to score goals from. What happened with Man United is, like Terry said, as soon as we brought Cristiano Ronaldo, we went from trying to get 2 players to score goals to 1 player to score goals. And then Ronaldo left, Rashford stepped into that role, but everything was on him. Now we've got to a point where we've got Rasmus Højlund, who wants to score goals, Bruno Fernandes, who should be scoring goals, Rashford, who wants to score goals. And now we're not too sure how to put them all together into one. So one of them has to be sacrificed, because we can't, in my opinion, for main goal scoring threat, you should have your main 2 that you feed the team around, and then everyone else plays their part where they can.
Yeah, mate, I'll make it right now. There is an announcement I need to go to. It's been a tough week for football as it is, but some really sad news. Just breaking in regards to Thierry Henry. It's turned out that Kate Abdo is getting engaged to somebody else. I want to say commiserations to Thierry Henry.
Bro, me going for it.
Commiserations, Thierry. I've just seen the news. That was good, right? That was good. That was good. I held that together. I nearly burst out laughing.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Got some super chats to do here that I want to go through. This one's an interesting one. It says, thank you, Glazers, for not selling Maguire. Joke. He says, this is sarcasm intended to show how silly it is to make the Glazers a sole determining factor.
What? This guy really, wants the Glazers to be seen as not that bad, isn't it? Every single stream right now is like,
no one has said that the Glazers are at fault for every single thing that goes wrong, i.e., they didn't make Jose Mourinho have a go at Martial for going to his child's birth. They didn't make Rashford have a bad touch tonight. Nobody has ever blamed the Glazers for that directly. We blame the Glazers for where we are right now. But again, to counter your point, even though it's sarcasm, if they would have sold him and brought in a top-class centre-back, maybe we wouldn't have had to rely at this point a goal from Maguire to save the day. So I get where you're coming from. No one's ever said they are the only or the sole determining factor, but they run the club. And I said it to you on the earlier stream. I'll say it again. You can't tell me to not blame the people that run the club for running the club poorly. It's literally their job, bro, isn't it? Do you know what I'm saying? This says, it's a damn miracle. Acuna got out of there without a yellow for his eighth foul overall. Listen, that man should have been sent off in the game we played at Old Trafford as well. That guy is a brute, but he's just one of them individuals. He must something about him. My man don't get in trouble. Like, it reminds you of Gerrard. 3 points more important than the performance today. 2 villains turned to heroes. Maguire's win percentage increasing, becoming undroppable. Love the show. Come on, you gooners. I will say this, Randy. Listen, I called him out in the international break because I was like, don't do this stupid interview where you speak about win percentages. Take responsibility. And sometimes you got to look at what people do and put it above what they say in life. And look, he started the last 3 games. It's 3 games. I'm not getting carried away. This was the Maguire that we signed. And this is why the level he's at right now is what I saw in those first 18 months. And I look, if he can get back to that level, then it's fine. We keep him as an example.
And yeah,
all I'm saying is with that win percentage, add context to it. Look at the teams he had played on Ten Hag.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah,
and I'll
he still has
disagree with
to
Radley.
go.
I don't think at this point points are more important than performances. I think we've gone past the point where the points mean anything, and we need to start seeing something from the team that resembles a team. To me personally,
I disagree probably at this stage. I can't lie. At this stage, I'm looking at results, man. Because
I think in the Champions League, to stay in the
I
Champions
think we need
League,
some performances.
There's a
In the
balance.
Champions League, definitely results, but in the Premier League, we need some performances.
Yeah, overall performances. But yeah, I want to be in the Champions League because if you get to like February and you're playing really well, but you're out of the Champions League, it will hurt more. So yeah, I think there's a balance, as you boys say. Haven't won away in Spain since 2006. Limited Sevilla to very little. Remember how bad City were in Europe when they first got in. Perspective. Yeah, look, I do think there's a lot of there are certain gooners out there who I think they're more angry at the win because they don't get to moan and they're looking for weird that there are some out there and I see them online. I just think you just won away for the first time in 20 years in Spain. You beat a very good team and you're not happy. It's strange to me, but then I'm not an Arsenal fan, so I don't get it maybe. Reyes did not have a mare. One shaky punch does not merit his whole performance being written off. Why do we focus on small negatives? I tell you why. We're going through it with Onana. Let me ask the United boys this. Very quick answer. Every time a shot goes at a goal, do you get nervous?
Yeah.
One shot on the ground.
I said it earlier. I have no problem. I have no problem with Onana. Like, remember when I said the mistakes aren't that bad to me? Like, it's a thing where I think Gary Neville said in July, being Manchester United keeper is the hardest position in English football. And I think Onana is evidence of that. Any mistake that guy makes, he's in trouble. But listen, you look at Alisson is the only world-class keeper in this league. Everyone else makes mistakes. But when it's Onana, it's like, oh.
I hear you. I do hear you on that. I think on the Raya thing, that's what's happening. People are, when you become hypersensitive to something, you focus on it more. When I used two of my favorite boxers, because their fights are always generally, other than Usyk, really, Anthony Joshua, Amir Khan, love them both. But every time they get landed on the chin, I get panicky because I think the legs are about to go because they've both got suspect chins for listen. Anthony Joshua, I don't mean it rudely, bruv, because both of them do me, but I just mean they've both got subject chins, and I feel like right now, Arsenal fans, you're watching Raya, and because of the mistakes, everything he does is making you more nervous than you probably should be. Because I was watching him tonight, barring that punch. Again, as someone that doesn't care if you win or lose, I didn't think it was that bad, but I get when you're emotional.
I was the same.
You know what it is, Terry?
I was the same.
I think every game there's 1 or 2 errors that are creeping up in this game, and obviously there's Ramsdale lurking in the background, so that becomes more apparent.
All I'm saying, bro. All I'm saying is it's exactly the same thing I tried to highlight with the De Gea situation, where people went a bit too far, and I think towards the end. And the careful thing about this is, and fans probably won't like this, and this is all football fans, but we are more closer to the players now than ever with social media, and what we say and what we do definitely does have an impact. And I definitely believe towards the end of the season for De Gea, all that noise that was going a bit too far, in my honest opinion, whether it was every single kick that went wrong, definitely got to him, and it, in my opinion, impacted the way he left Manchester United at the end. And I don't believe, as a fan base, we did right by him, and I hope that Arsenal fans don't do that to Raya, because mistakes are part of the game. You see it, like you said, you see it with every goalkeeper. It's okay to say, I want that changed, I want that better, but to then start drowning it as if that's the only thing you can talk about, when objectively there's so much good going on. I just think as fans, we have a duty, especially now we've got more of a voice, to actually still be a supporter. Even if they don't, even if, like I said earlier, Maguire, I've criticised Maguire heavily, and I've been consistent in the sense of I don't think he's competent under pressure. I will heavily and brutally go in on him on that every time, and I don't rate his mentality. But if he shows me that he can do it, even if it's half a game, as a supporter, because it enables my club to win or get there, I have to then again go, fair play, you shut me up. I have to do that. And this is where I just wish our fan base could be a bit more balanced without getting into their feelings too much, because it's so easily done with no consequence.
Yeah, I think what you have is fair conversations, and then there are some, and we all know who these individuals are in their own circles, or people we interact with, who they want to be right about. I was right that 9 years ago I said Rashford wouldn't make it, and they want to be right. Or I knew we shouldn't have signed Raya because I like Ramsdale, so I want to be right. And then they jump on things like a bitch in heat, and they don't let go. Then someone could be great for 2 years, 3 years, and then they have a bad month and they're back on it again. I just don't think it's going to go away for now. Interesting tonight, the XG, Man United's XG tonight, 1.66, Copenhagen's 2.02. Do you know what's interesting? This is again, though, where that's fine, because XG only gets counted when you have a shot. Those 3 poor touches where Garnacho, Rashford, and Højlund should have either scored or played somebody in. That for me doesn't count as any XG, but those are huge chances. So that's where you've got to watch a game. You can't just look at XG.
And the penalty also contributes to that as well. So because they've taken a penalty.
A penalty is like a high XG.
Yeah. So
yeah, of course. The convo around Odegaard is the wrong one. He's guessing in the same pockets as always, but nobody finds him. Jorginho is very safe. Doesn't progress well.
I thought that in the first half, like there was a few chances that Jorginho had to thread it through the lines, but I think we got to accept that Odegaard didn't play too well. But just to echo what Terry said about the win, I found that we were talking about Odegaard so much, I even forgot that we won today. Like, it's so boring. Fair enough, he didn't have a good game, but let's move on. There's 10 more players on the pitch. Like, it's not that big of a topic.
But you don't think it's important to highlight continual issues? So for me, it's not about Odegaard, but it's seeing how we haven't performed well over the court. We haven't performed as good as we have in comparison to last season, and we're struggling to get good performances in. So it's not about criticizing the result, because I'm ecstatic that we've gone there and we won, and we're one step closer to qualifying, But at the same time, you've got to look at the overarching view and look and see that there are some staggering problems. And Odegaard, for the second game running, hasn't been involved in the game because we can't find it, and that's been a constant theme this season. And same with Saka.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Where did Rice play today? Midfield. Just say midfield. It's easier. It's easier to say. First away win in Spain since the Bernabeu in 2006. Crazy. I remember where I was for that game as well. I was at a friend's house. Zoe, hope you're good, Zoe. Zoe Bertram. Me and her and a couple of people, like 6 of us, all there from karate. Weren't me and this one girl, by the way. Big group of us were at our flat drinking when I was living in Manchester when that game happened, because Beckham was playing and we were all hoping that Arsenal would lose and they didn't. Anyway, I'm going to come out my reminiscing of my youth. It was a good night, that was. Anthony on the left, Rashford on the right. Like, I'm someone that wants to see people go back. The inverting thing, I think, it's not dead. It's not done. I would love to see that.
I started this, by the way. I've been saying this. Also, Anthony is a left wing back. I've clocked it. Just letting you know.
It's not a first away win.
Anthony's dead. Like, Anthony should not be starting games. Like, he is dead.
He should.
I forgot about this. I forgot about it. There was a moment in the first half where he beat his man. He's away, he's running. And I'm like, keep running. And he stops. He didn't even need to.
Try to beat him again.
I know exactly what you're talking about as well.
I nearly put my fist through my screen. I was like, what? You're away from the guy. The fullback has very little pace. You're away from him. Just keep running into the box. And he didn't. And I'm just like,
you know what Anthony reminds me of? You know when you're playing FIFA and you've got a slow play, you're holding down R2 as hard as you can.
Yeah, you're pressing hard.
Still ain't running fast.
The worst bit is Anthony, he's not even that slow. I'm not saying he ain't Usain Bolt, but it's not like he's out there running around. He's not like jogging around like he's McTominay. Like, this guy's got a bit of speed. He's away from the guy. Crazy. Listen, I want to thank everyone who's tuned in tonight, everybody that has super chatted. Everyone who's hit the like button so far, it means a great deal to us. It does. It's going to be difficult covering both these teams at the same time after the Champions League games. There's so much to talk about and digest. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. Back tomorrow, I've got Sava on for Straight Facts. Champions League match reactions in the evening as well. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again.